So I hope that you're all back and you haven't left. You're somewhere around. So now to the second panel that you have all been waiting for. We have the coming advancements in crypto and blockchain. So I hope you, of course, have enjoyed your break and you're ready to continue with us to this second panel for today, whereas it's a quite very favorite subject of mine and will be discussed. The coming advancements in crypto and blockchain. The moderator of this discussion is Katherine, the social media manager at Otter.ai. And during this interesting panel discussion, our esteemed guests and moderator will discuss the future and advancements in the blockchain and crypto scene in Cyprus and abroad. Can Cyprus become a blockchain hotspot in the future? Remain to be seen. Of course, as said, the last 15 minutes, our speakers will interact with questions from the audience. And during the discussion, you can add your questions via the Q&A tab below. And of course, don't forget to share your excitement in social media via hashtag Cyprus Fintech Summit. So, our esteemed guests, the stage is yours, and I would like to welcome Ms. Katherine Banks to moderate the discussion.
Thank you, Adonia. I'm really excited because blockchain, as we all know, is really going through a moment. It's hot, people are interested, they're very interested in cryptocurrency. Bitcoin has gone through the roof, and there's so much more that's coming. You know, a year ago, if you had asked about the crypto space, it's very different from the way it is now. So I have an amazing panel, thought leaders in Cyprus, and they're going to tell us about the trends and what they think the future holds for blockchain technology and for the crypto space. I would like to introduce them all now, starting with Nikolas Xenofontos. If you would like to give us a little bit of info, Nikos.
Yes, sure, Katherine. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy end of the week. First of all, thank you to Andreas and X-Valley for this initiative and for organizing this. I feel it's great. Katherine, I look forward to you hosting our panel. Thank you to my co-panelists, and thank you in advance to all attendees for your time and attention. I am Nikolas Xenofontos, the Managing Director at Salvus Funds. We are a consultancy firm that we more or less specialize in A to Z concerning the setup of investment firms, investment funds, payment institutions, think EMIs. And our purpose is to answer questions. We're here to help with compliance, with operations, with technology, and we consider ourselves as problem solvers, and we are optimists. So I look forward to this.
Great. Our second panelist is a thought leader in Cyprus. He is the president of the Cyprus Blockchain Association. This is Yiannis Menelaou. Yiannis?
Hi guys, hi everybody. Before I make a brief introduction about myself, I would also like to congratulate the organizers, X-Valley Tech and Tech Cyprus, for hosting this great summit. Thank you guys. About myself, I'm coming from the fintech sector, both investments and technology innovation. I have been involved in several blockchain projects since the early days of blockchain. I have participated with startups and large banks, and we got European grants as well. Happy to be here today, and I'm representing the Cypriot blockchain community.
Thank you so much. The next speaker on our list is Paris Mavronichis, and he is a lawyer. He is going to discuss a lot of the laws and what is happening as far as the legalities in blockchain and crypto. Paris, would you like to share some more information?
Yes, thank you. I am the Managing Director of Lambrianides & Co., a law firm in Nicosia, Cyprus. I've been involved in the startup ecosystem of Cyprus for the past 10 years or so, and I've been for several years an in-house legal counsel in tech companies that they were having international presence, not just in Cyprus, but in three or four continents simultaneously. And so since the inception of my law firm, we have been seeing the rise of cryptocurrencies in pretty much all aspects of business, ranging from e-commerce and now from governments thinking of adopting it. So I will be happy to share a lot of my knowledge and the insights that we have gained through the years, and how the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency will assist our systems here in Cyprus at a governmental and at the business level.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is George Lambrianides. He is leading blockchain at Untitled Capital. George?
Hey everyone. First of all, Andrea, thank you, and XY, thank you for hosting this summit. I'm George, the lead blockchain at Antikythera Capital. Antikythera is coming from the Antikythera mechanism, which is basically the world's first supercomputer. And we got inspired by that, and we named the company, the fund, which is US-based. Antikythera is a US-based hedge fund. It's been launched in early 2018 with me and my partner, Yiannis. We invest directly in digital assets and to crypto in an equity rounds on the early stage crypto companies. We've been doing that for quite some time, and we are excited to actually have headquartered some of the companies in Cyprus, and we're trying to put Cyprus on the map.
Great. Thank you so much. Our last speaker, last but certainly not least, is Vasilis Charalambous. He is an attorney in Cyprus, and he again will be discussing some of the legalities, some of the things we can expect in blockchain and cryptocurrency law. Vasili?
Thank you, Katherine. Thank you for the invitation and for moderating this very interesting panel. I'm Vasilis Charalambous. I am an advocate at George Z. Georgiou and Associates. I mainly advise public and private sector clients on emerging technology and personal data issues, including blockchain and crypto assets. I am also a member of the Technology Committee of the Cyprus Bar Association, as well as a member of the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Subcommittee that worked on the developments and the implementation on blockchain and DLT technology in Cyprus that produced actually the national strategy for blockchain in 2019. I really do hope that people watching our panel discussion today will be more educated and interested in this technology by the end of the conference. Happy to be with you today. Thank you, Katherine.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to ask questions, and please let me know if you want to, if you want to answer, if you want to add any comments. I'd really appreciate it. Here we go. First question is for Nikolas. What future developments in crypto and digital currencies shall we expect? And that can be either in Cyprus, globally. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, thank you for the question. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because digital currency. What is a digital currency? Most people will presume, correctly or wrongly, that we're talking about cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies, I consider them a uniquely beautiful and a uniquely intriguing development. Nonetheless, the crypto part of the cryptocurrencies world is accurate, while the currency part has proved, in my opinion, not to be accurate. Although you can transact using Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on, but that's a separate thing, and I'm happy to answer questions on this at the end of our panel. And so if by digital currencies you refer to what we now call cryptocurrencies, I'd like to know that these are better described as crypto assets. And one of the things to anticipate for crypto assets It's the upcoming European regulation, which is cutely called MiCA, the acronym for markets in crypto assets. So that's the big thing to look forward for crypto assets. But talking about crypto digital currencies, I choose among the many things that are going to happen the central bank digital currencies. The fact that in the next 3 years, the central banks around the world are gonna introduce into the mainstream. It's gonna become a reality with the paper money being on its way out. With I think Bahamas with their project Sun Dollar being already live as a general purpose CBDC, central bank digital currency. Many central banks are going to introduce their own. So I was reading a report earlier from the Bank of International Settlement that surveyed central banks around the world, and the response was that nearly 90% of central banks are working at the stage of introducing their own digital currency. And the central banks responsible for the 20% of the money circulating in the world are going to be the leaders in joining, let's say, Bahamas, in replacing paper money in the world with digital currencies. The even most interesting thing in regards to digital currencies and central banks is how this will affect the commercial banks that are now, you know, making a living. Their business model is around being intermediaries, issuing loans, and all these things. How is this model where in other studies I've read, there are 4 approaches that nobody has really decided on the one that's going to dominate. How are the banks, the traditional banks, are going to reposition themselves, transform themselves to still have a role once these central bank digital currencies are introduced into the mainstream, and we no longer have to deal with paper money. So among the many things that the whole crypto and digital world can look forward to is in my opinion, the central bank digital currencies.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything to add? Anyone? Okay.
So,
go ahead, George.
I would like to say first, the banks need to accept for us in order to be able to transfer money and purchase some of the digital currencies before they trying to issue their own. And the other thing is that, yeah, digital payments has been made for years now. And so basically, I would like to say to the digital banks, if you want to use digital currency in order to monitor you, feel free, but we'll be using Bitcoin forever.
Great, thank you so much. My next question is directed to Yiannis. Yiannis, what do you believe about the Cyprus blockchain ecosystem? How do you think that, where do you think the focus needs to be in order to make Cyprus the blockchain hotspot? Which, by the way, it's on its way to being.
It sounds like so, since the announcements from the deputy minister. Allow me to answer the question by sharing our story as Cyprus Blockchain Association. Okay. So since 2013, there has been some early activity in Cyprus for blockchain projects. Steadily, we have seen the whole ecosystem growing up, and therefore we decided to proceed and house everybody under one umbrella, the so-called Cyprus Blockchain Association. Mm-hmm. We got our license representing the association back in 2018, and we also set up, we are also the founding members of a European federation, which is called European Blocktech Federation in Brussels, which is essentially the association of the associations. So Cyprus, by design, is a leader. We have affiliations with approximately 20 countries all around the globe, and we have access to experienced individuals and access to industrial projects, regulatory drafting, standardization, advising at national levels, and so on. So believe it or not, we are one of the most active regions in the world. And let me give you also a few examples about that. So in addition to what the Deputy Minister shared with us earlier before, we're not just the #1 country for raising capital for blockchain projects per capita, but we have also that leadership in other sectors as well. So it's not just blockchain. As Cyprus, for this year, we have the leadership of the European Blockchain Observatory. Also a few other things like a couple of our members, like the University of Nicosia, it's the academic institution #1 all over the world that designs academic degrees about cryptocurrencies and blockchain. We have innovative companies like Blockco, which is offering blockchain verification services for several types of verification, especially for documents either for the public or the private sector. We have two of the largest private hospitals utilizing the blockchain technology for registering COVID-19 vaccination certificates. There are partnerships in place with the largest incubators in Cyprus and Israel supporting fintech startups, and in our end, of course, supporting blockchain startups. So we have all of those collaborations in place. We brought experts from Silicon Valley, Singapore, Switzerland to provide executive training and lectures to our events and summits. And we even see that today. And I'm proud to say that we are also invited as experts to offer our expertise and knowledge to other governments and summits. So we have several companies working in various fields in supply chain management, in land registry, in telecoms, investments, the broader fintech space, and so on. The Deputy Minister shared with you a few figures related to blockchain. We have seen that companies managed to raise approximately 140 million euros from EU grants related to blockchain implementation. And everything sounds great, but why we are still yet to become the leading nation? What is missing from the element? How can we become one? So I think there are 4 pillars we need to consider and 4 directions, if I may say, that we need to structure and move forward. And it's nice to see that the government, through the Deputy Minister today, we see that we are moving towards the same direction. So summarizing everything is that #1 is that don't afraid to innovate. So we have young people and established companies, and all of those need to innovate and make Cyprus a really special place to be. Technology allows us to offer services globally from day one. We shouldn't forget that. And what better applications than the rewarding space of fintech, of course. #2, the regulatory framework for tech companies in general, not just for the blockchain companies. We have the core facilities, we have experienced people, we have well-educated human capital, and we perhaps need to start considering the technology as a service and not just the pure hardcore traditional technology offerings. There is no need to focus on tech companies that require large hardware facilities. We can actually focus on other types of companies offering code, offering services, and we can achieve that through offering tax benefits, the IP sandboxes, legal services, consulting services, all of that infrastructure that we are good at.
Right.
#3, bank the innovation. That's what George mentioned earlier. Unfortunately, the Cypriot banks still do not bank the innovative companies, especially the fintechs. Either those have to do with blockchain or any other innovation. It's a fact, it's something that we see happening out there. That perhaps it's due to lack of knowledge, to lack of expertise, and they rank that kind of companies as high risk companies, which is not the reality, let's say. So a successful ecosystem needs all of its stakeholders to be supportive. And of course, the banks are one of the major stakeholders of the ecosystem to succeed. And lastly, we need to start finally implementing the national strategies. We have seen several national strategies taking place. We have seen the blockchain strategy back in 2019. We have seen several discussions around blockchain at the Cypriot Parliament, even back in 2013. It's about time to innovate. It's about time to generate sandboxes, to generate innovative legislation to attract tech companies and especially fintech companies, because it's a sector that we are really strong in Cyprus. So summarizing everything, we can see that Cyprus is really strong as a country. We have the human capital, we have the experience, but in order to become a hub and a successful ecosystem, there is need for coordination between all of the stakeholders, such as the banks and the state, and of course, all of us.
Thank you, Yiannis. I appreciate all of the information that you just gave us. I remember when I started in blockchain, I remember my mentor telling me to look to Cyprus for the future, to look to Cyprus's leadership as far as mainstream adoption of blockchain technology. So it's very interesting what's happening there. It's exciting. Okay, our next question is for Paris. Paris, what is your opinion about the importance of crypto as a utility?
Well, we need to see what is a cryptocurrency. I mean, essentially, cryptocurrency it's a medium of exchange, such as the United States dollar, but it's digital and it uses encryption techniques to control the creation of monetary units and to verify the transfer of funds via decentralized ledger, the so-called blockchain. So traditionally, the money needed to fulfill three fundamental roles: a medium of exchange, a store of value, and a unit of account. And from what we've seen so far, the only one that has come close to being cryptocurrency, even though, as Nikolas correctly stated earlier, is closer to a form of an asset, is Bitcoin. And this is considering the infrastructure that has been created around it. I mean, from e-commerce companies to restaurants and lately giants such as PayPal that have adopted it, we are observing on a great scale an adoption of this currency that is only growing exponentially. Now, as a store of value, again, the Bitcoin is the closest thing that we have to a gold. Let's say consider it as a gold 2.0, but a digital this time. And since 2008, its value has only went up. But unlike gold, Bitcoin is finite. I mean, there will only be, I think 21 million will ever be created, with the last one being mined in 2040. And this scarcity will further add to its value. So its divisibility, portability, and the fact that it's very hard to counterfeit, from a technological point of view, they make it a far more superior solution than fiat. Now, that specific crypto, Bitcoin, that does not rely on any central authority, it uses a peer-to-peer network of nodes which jointly maintain this common tamper-resistant record of historical transactions. So this means that you cannot break it or tamper with it, and every transaction is recorded. This enhances trust, and trust is essential. Bitcoin was born out of necessity when the corporate and banking greed and short-sighted monetary policies of governments, they gave birth to the 2008 global financial collapse. And a perfect example is Cyprus. In 2013, the bank account haircut that took place, where people saw their lifetime savings stolen from them, is a perfect example why the governments cannot always be trusted. And since it does not rely on central authorities, what really makes it valuable, it's a new form of asset that is not subject to anybody's control, completely decentralized, that allows you to become your own bag, so to speak. So it's really a statement against unchecked government control and corporate greed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. George, how do you, and I feel like this is such a relevant question exactly at this moment. Do you believe that cryptocurrencies will be accepted in traditional banks?
Well, first, before I go there, I would like to share a story with what Paris said. And back in 2013, when we had the banking crisis in Cyprus, a friend of mine was traveling from the United States to Greece. And overnight, the banks shut down, and he's stuck in Greece without any money, and he couldn't actually do anything. All the bank account has been frozen. He couldn't use his debit card, credit cards. He couldn't do anything, and he ended up begging his friends to fly from Cyprus to Greece in order to bring him cash. So at that moment, when that happened, we all knew that the innovation of Bitcoin and cross-border payments, and there's no relation to governments, and you cannot even freeze it or anything. You can use it at any time. It was no brainer to go all in there.
Mm-hmm.
So now in terms of your question about the banks to accept digital currencies, eventually they have to, and we can see that every day major banks shifting their narrative from this is a huge bubble, this is a huge scam, and this is something that is going to fail, to they accept in order to hold custody of crypto assets for customers. But also bear in mind, they do that not because they believe in the innovation, but as a next payout, because huge institutional investors are understanding the value of this, and they have to obligated by regulations to hold custody and everything. So for banks, in order to hold custody of assets, that's a huge payday, because they can charge the big players. Now, I would really like to see banks trying to shift their narrative and understand the whole spectrum of this technology in order to start and create things and progress into a new era to evolution, because the legacy financial system hasn't changed for decades.
Okay. Thank you for that. Vasily, I would like to now know if you think that the internet has played an important role in the adoption of cryptocurrency, and what are the wider socioeconomic implications cryptos will have as soon as the internet reaches regions of the planet that currently don't have access?
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for your question. As I can see, this is a big one to start with, but this is actually a two-part question. So on the first part, we need to understand that the Bitcoin protocol and cryptocurrencies in general is the monetary layer over the internet. It's a standard, just like TCP or IP or the internet, through which internet users, can acquire, trade, and use Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as they see fit. So now, regarding the internet again, the original Satoshi Nakamoto white paper, which is basically the basis of the Bitcoin blockchain as we know it, was published over the internet. It was through the internet again that the whole world found out about the closure of Mt. Gox, one of the earliest cryptocurrency exchanges. But it was also through the internet that the whole world, as Paris said before, learned about the Cyprus deposit haircuts, which, by the way, played a very important role in Bitcoin's price spike back then, what happened in Cyprus. So we also need to consider the existence of social media giants existing in 2008 and later, like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, that also played a big role in the adoption of cryptocurrencies. we must also not forget that Bitcoin was already out in 2008 when social media were gaining momentum, and that the price of Bitcoin is affected by good and bad news that people read through these and many other mediums. This can go both ways, really. Like good news raises value and bad news lowers value. We know that. So, for example, in a case there is a policy decision threatening to ban cryptocurrencies in a given country, this will definitely affect the price negatively. The expansion now of social media makes all of this inevitable in a way, as it brings users together to share content that actually generates value. We cannot ignore the price instability, but we need to understand that actually high prices are the best marketing for this technology. We are talking about a bubble, but high prices is actually the best way for the world to know about this technology. So turning now to the second issue of the question, if I remember well, and what will happen when cryptos are being used by the least developed regions, let's say, which are considered the unbanked. I can tell you about the Global Fintech report. It says that we have now nearly 2 billion people that do not have bank accounts for one reason or another. If these people now have access to the internet, and then with a simple application, they download the application, they can immediately become participants in this international economy using an international currency that can be transmitted anywhere with no fees and no government controls. I mean, using the safeguards, we need them, but imagine the potential of connecting these 2 billion people to the rest of the world. I mean, this is actually revolutionary. We also need to consider that payment processors are charging at the moment high fees to send money to these destinations, at least up to date. With Bitcoin on the other side, you can do this nearly for free. So we must not forget that at the moment there are numerous competing cryptocurrencies that can provide international transfers fast and cheap. So yes, along with all the positive that could bring to all these people, there are as well some bad use cases for cryptos. But we need to know that while these cryptos can be used by criminals to promote criminal activities on the one hand, it can also be used by the rest of the world for life-changing uses positively. I mean, so when internet reaches to those places of the planet, I'm coming to an end now and I'm summarizing up. I think that when internet will reach those regions, people that people are now struggling, they will be able to use cryptocurrency and blockchain. People will be able to have a bank account. They will be able to raise money, start their own business. They will be able to work for big companies outside their own country and get paid through cryptocurrencies. And they will be able to make a living for themselves.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Katherine.
Yes, great answer. Let me go back to Paris for a moment. Paris, how do you think the blockchain will inevitably affect governments? And how beneficial do you feel the adoption of blockchain will be?
Oh, the beauty about this is that it has already affected governments in a very positive way. To give you a few examples of countries that they have already started implementing it. For instance, Sweden, France, the UAE, and even the Republic of Georgia, they are currently using blockchain technology for their land registration. For instance, the property sale registration of mortgages and charges, because by doing so, it creates a faster, a cheaper, and alternative methods into the current traditional ones. We will definitely see it in the Register of Companies here in Cyprus, because it will expedite the process in incorporating a company, and considering that the 60%, almost 60% of the GDP of the economy in Cyprus is based on services. And the Register of Companies is perhaps the most important department of the government. So by adopting a blockchain technology, it will assist far better our economy. Now, in terms of the communication of governmental departments in Cyprus, and in my experience, I mean, many governmental departments, they do not communicate between them when it comes to sharing records. So by having everything on a governmental blockchain, the governmental departments will be communicating much faster and much better. And these will have an increased safety for these records. And at the same time, we will see that there will be an auditable trail of amendments to such records. So we can see every single time that something changes, all of the departments of the government will have access to it. So we will not have one department knowing and another department not knowing. From a point of view of legal industry, something that I have noticed is that the first one that will go the way of the dinosaurs will be the notary publics. And that's due to the fact that if we adopt blockchain technology for notary services, that will effectively replace the need for a rubber stamp, because blockchain itself serves as document authentication. And at the same time, those documents will be preserved digitally as part of a digital ledger. The smart contracts that will be utilizing the blockchain technology, it's a massive step up from the digital signatures that have been slowly introduced in 2013, I think, 2012, 2013, with DocuSign and EchoSign. With blockchain, you can put far more information into each and every transaction. And so essentially, creating tamper-proof and legally unassailable agreements and using smart contract technology. So there will be no dispute as to who signed it or executed. And it's also good for the environment. I mean, we're going to enhance the Go Green movement by using far less paper. And the fact that I am noticing, it's especially when it comes to the KYC, which is burdensome, not just for the banks, but also for professionals such as the accountants and lawyers. If, let's say, we create a KYC blockchain, we will enable a seamless exchange of customer information between financial institutions and professionals for almost real-time compliance processing. To give you an example, instead of sharing the original documents, the customer can share an identity document that contains all the information beforehand. And currently, we are seeing that due to the massive process that exists, is burdensome. Sharing information of the clients with third-party validation agencies is also cumbersome, and blockchain will greatly expedite things with a far better certainty and security.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Our next question is for Yiannis. What is your opinion about decentralized finance applications and the future?
Actually, we have already been involved in decentralized finance for thousands of years, isn't it? Think about it. So in the past, we used to exchange goods for goods or goods for services later on, and that has been converted, of course, for the exchange of goods or services for money, and vice versa, of course. So either the money was in the form of coins or precious metals, or the transactions were taking place in a bilateral basis, i.e. we have two transacting parties. And today, although we have the two acting participants, we've got the buyer, we've got the seller, essentially we have also the intermediaries. We have the middleman, which is generally a bank or a payment provider. And we call all of those facilitators, and they are there, of course, to enable and confirm the transactions, the money transactions, and of course, to support and to assure the stability of the financial system. But do we really need them? I mean, through decentralized finance, what is changing? Today, we move well beyond that. And the exchange of money for goods and services is simply just one of the applications. Now we can structure much more complex procedures, mechanisms for payments, and interoperability between the different devices. That's why we have the Internet of Things or the Internet of Everything. And hopefully in the near future, we have a truly fully autonomous environment where now we will be able to have transactions in a multilateral basis, which means we do not have just two parties A and B sitting on the other side, but we have a chain of events linked all together in this process, either immediately or in a series of triggered events. Is that feasible with the traditional means? it is up to some extension. For example, we can structure legal contracts and so on, but that's by far not as efficient as a smart contract, let's say, and of course not as cheap as smart contracts. So all the technological infrastructure providing is there to provide the trust, and possibly in the near future, like what we see with Amazon, we also have the physical delivery of the products. So applying such innovation in finance is of course always interesting, and it's by far really rewarding. And because of that, it's easier to also make mistakes, but it's also easier to adjust and progress to further applications beyond finance. And that's what where we stand now. And that's what we essentially call decentralized finance. So it's not about finance, it's also moving well beyond multilateral transactions. So this decentralized finance topic is there to foster innovation, efficiency, to lower transaction fees, to generally make our lives much better, much more efficient. We have seen a few examples from the previous panel. Paris just shared a few great examples as well. And I'm not sure if everyone is understanding this revolution. So DeFi is a truly fintech revolution. And I'm very excited to see what is going to happen in the future.
Thank you so much. That's an excellent answer. George, what is your opinion about the future of crypto technology? What do you see happening in the near future?
Oh man, that's
exciting,
really good,
right?
That's a really good one. Well, we will see a huge innovation on every aspect of our lives. Right now, the focus is on finance because that's the more lagging industry, hasn't been changed for thousands of years. We are really excited to see how we incorporate, how we actually remove all the unnecessary middlemen and corporations that actually hold us back. Because when Yiannis talk about decentralized finance, when we're talking about Bitcoin and other innovations, smart contracts on Ethereum, we start seeing innovation. We saw what happened with Robinhood, right? Yesterday, I mean, what happened? So imagine that blockchain technology could avoid that for projects like DEX, decentralized exchanges. No one can stop them. No one can freeze. No one can push the freeze button and do anything about it. So we start seeing innovation progressing slowly, and we will start seeing these technologies going further. And I'm really excited to actually see what's going to happen next. We have a broadly idea of what's going on, but I would like to let the imagination of the people strive, because I mean, guys, just be creative and put your imagination into play, and whatever you can imagine is basically what's going to happen.
Yes, agree. Vasily, this question is for you. What do you feel is the future of regulation in crypto and blockchain space? And just a quick note, guys, we're running out of time, and I want to try and get in some questions if we can.
Okay, thank you, Katherine. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear
me, right? Okay. I'll try to be quick. So yes, although Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies exist for years, many countries still do not have systems that restrict, regulate, or ban the cryptocurrencies. So regarding the decentralized and anonymous nature of Bitcoin, this has challenged many governments on how to allow legal use while on the same time preventing criminal transactions, as I was saying before in my answer. So while Bitcoin is welcomed in many parts of the world, a few countries such as China, Bolivia, Ecuador, worry because of its volatility, decentralized nature, perceived threat to current monetary systems, and links to illicit activities like drug trafficking and money laundering. So most countries around the world have already started analyzing ways to regulate these things regarding cryptocurrencies. We should also know that while they haven't yet determined the legality of cryptocurrency, they tend to try to treat them as property for the time being, as we have seen recently from an English high court case, the A versus Persons Unknown, that actually concluded that crypto assets, in this case Bitcoin, can be treated as property. So regulators have actually many areas of concern, such as anti-money laundering, investor protection, personal data, tax, even cybercrime. The situation at the moment in Cyprus, though, is that after Cyprus joined the European Blockchain Partnership in 2019, as the minister was saying before, an ad hoc parliamentary committee was formed which examined the legal aspects, the application of blockchain in the public and financial sector, and issued the national strategy, which actually forms the basis for the upcoming legislation. So currently we are waiting for the introduction of this legislation that, according to what Mr. Kokkinos said before, is going to be sent to the parliament the next month, and that will cover the main aspects of the introduction of blockchain in Cyprus. It will actually deal with on the main terminology, how blockchain can be admitted into court, how it can be recognized by the Register of Companies and the Land Registry, things which Paris was discussing a while ago, how it can apply in the Cypriot legal system. It will generally cover all aspects. Coming now to the European Union, we can see that cryptocurrencies are legal in one way or another throughout the EU, but specific regulation and standards vary among countries. So in January 2020, the 5th EU Anti-Money Laundering Directive came into effect, requiring basically the registration of cryptocurrency exchanges with financial regulators and the transfer of client wallet address to them. So we can see that in general, the EU has been gradually tightening its regulation of the cryptocurrency market. And any national legislation now will have to be, on the basis of the directives of the European Commission and the general framework, has to be consistent with the European framework. It has to be also consistent with the up-and-coming MiCA regulation, which Nikolas referred to before. It stands for the markets in crypto assets and is expected to come into force by 2024. It provides for the things like to improve competition, to reduce risks, and even to protect users and investors. We also provide definitions regarding what is a crypto asset, definitions for different token categories, rules of digital asset custody, and capital requirements that can clarify the relationship between the token issuer and the token holder. So I think that this is a quick sum up of the legal situation and what can we expect from regulations regarding blockchain and crypto. And I also believe that the regulatory approach towards blockchain and cryptocurrencies should be innovation friendly and based on the principle of technology neutrality, let's say, enabling also the creation of innovation friendly ecosystems and innovation hubs. And yes, the good thing is that blockchain and cryptocurrencies, as George said, are here to stay, and we will do our best to solve any issues that may arise in the way. Thank you, Katherine.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We actually were given a little more time because, these are all complicated topics and there is so much information, and we know that everybody wants to know, all of these questions are so important. So we didn't want to cut off the last question, which is for Nikolas. Nikolas, what do you feel are the right ingredients for a blockchain tech company to have in order to raise funding from investors, which I'm sure a lot of people are interested in right now?
Well, I'll start by telling you the things that anyone looking to raise funds should know that investors are looking into, which is irrespective of the particulars of any project, and that's the team, the team's DNA, the team's background, their culture, their resilience. So that's the first thing they would look. Then, of course, it's going to be the particulars of the project, how much it is scalable, how much it is to their appetite. But these are standard things with any fundraising effort. What is unique about blockchain projects or crypto-related projects. And this is a common theme among what George said, what Vasilis and Paris and Yiannis have said, is that investors need to feel that they are investing in something that they will be able to actually yield, a return, and that that venture is in all ways legal and compliant with regulations. So investors, and we are seeing investors that are very, very active in blockchain and crypto-related projects. The only thing that would make a blockchain project separate itself from any other kind of project would be the way they would market their compliance, their legality, their conformity with all regulations. So it is both a marketing game, a true essence game, but also at the end of the day, it's about the basics: a good team, a good plan, scalability. We're talking about blockchain. We're talking about being decentralized. That's the number one thing you're looking for: scalability. But yes, an extra slide explaining why you will be not facing any odd questions from a bank, from any regulator down the line in regards to this particular project.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm sure that's going to be really beneficial. That information is going to be really beneficial to a lot of people. Now, I have some questions from the audience and those that are watching. And the first question is, and please feel free, anyone who wants to, whichever one of you wants to answer this. What do you see blockchain? What do you see of blockchain both in Greece and across Europe in fintech? Gentlemen?
Yeah, do we see on what terms?
I would think perhaps like, what do you feel is happening in this space?
Right. So we can see dramatic innovation coming from Europe, countries like Germany and the ex-European country, United Kingdom. Mm-hmm. In Greece, deeply involved, there are a few companies in the blockchain space that are trying to innovate, but in Cyprus, it's only like, you can count them on your hands. They are not publicly available. It's more like stealth startups, and due to what's going on with banking in Cyprus and the regulations, because nothing is clear. Mm-hmm. But we can see a huge explosion around Europe, and but Europe needs to start catching up, because United States and Asia are way ahead of the curve, and the Europeans needs to start catching up, if they want to stay in the game.
Okay, thank you so much, George. Now, let's have someone else answer this one. How do you make sure to convert crypto assets in fiat and vice versa easily, and being sure that KYC are properly compliant? Maybe one of the attorneys?
I think, if I may proceed, Catherine, I think sure. This is mainly an aspect that crypto exchanges need to deal with. If I got the question right, mm-hmm. I mean, they have to abide by the license they have in the region they are at. So they have to go by the rules.
Okay. Go ahead.
If I also may add to what Vasilis said, it's the onus will pretty much be on the exchanges. I mean, to give you an idea, Coinbase has two sets of verifications. There is a simple one where they just verify email, date of birth, name, surname, and there is a tier 2 where they need from you a copy of your passport, a copy of recent utility bill, and a photograph where you're holding your passport next to your face. Now, in many instances, this for the time being, it's not enough. But if you introduce more requirements, these will create a crash into how many users will be able to use the exchange. Now, at the same time, the governments will be bombarding the exchanges, requesting them to put more KYC procedures. But I think that in due time, a balance will be found out between the governments and the exchanges, because on the one hand, you cannot really choke the business. And at the other hand, we need to ensure that those funds that they are coming in, they're coming from illicit sources. So it's really a balancing act. It remains to be seen.
Great, thank you so much. Next up, we have a question that actually would be really great for Yanni. Someone wants to know if you think that Cyprus has missed the 2013 opportunity to become a pioneer in the crypto space.
There are actually opportunities at every time. George mentioned a few examples, Nikolas as well, Paris as well. So we are about to see now the new bill that is coming out, what is going to include. But generally, as you saw from the figures that the guys presented and from the previous panel as well, we have innovation around several industries in Cyprus. So there is always time, and it's all about the effort. And it's also what George mentioned, just begin, do the things you would you have in your imagination, structure them, put them down. There is capital in Cyprus, there is knowledge, there is expertise, and the ecosystem is there to support everybody. Let's go out and innovate.
Great. Okay, that is it for the questions. We are out of time. I want to thank all of our panelists. You're all thought leaders in the industry, and I think it's very exciting what's happening in Cyprus. And it's very exciting to see this small country be such a big force in something that is so relevant at the moment. So thank you all very much for all of your expertise and all of your knowledge and your time, of course. And I will give it back. I will give the stage back to Adonia.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you so much. Thank you also all for sharing your interesting thoughts with us. To be honest, I was really tempted. I was very, very much tempted to actually participate.